Hello there, you rather splendid human being you. I'm Chris from TechSpert, and today we are checking out the sequel to the Honor Magic VS, which was Honor's very first foldable phone. But somewhat confusingly, it's not called the Honor Magic VS2, it's just called the Honor Magic V2. Of course, you can expect me to call it the Honor Magic VS2 all the way through this bloody video. And do be sure to point it out in the comments down below as well, because I absolutely love it when that happens. Now, the Honor Magic V2 boasts upgraded specs across the board and a sexy new slimline design. So is this the affordable alternative you've been looking for? Well, let's whip it on out the box, and then through the wonders of video editing, we're going to skip forward in time over a week and I will deliver my in-depth review after having my SIM slapped in the bugger for that full time. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, what do you get in that almighty box besides the Honor Magic V2? Well, you've also got a 66 watt supercharge adapter, a Type-C USB cable, and you've also got yourself a protective bumper case. And this doesn't just protect your shiny new Honor Magic V2, it's also got a little flip out stand bit, which also will hopefully stop the amount of wobble that's going on when you lay the Honor Magic V2 flat on a surface. Spoiler alert, it does not. And there you have it, that is everything that you get chucked inside of the box along with the Honor Magic V2. Job done. Alright, so it's been around 2 full weeks since I shot that lovely unboxing section you just watched, and I've been using the Honor Magic V2 as my full-time smartphone. So the Honor Magic V2 is just stunningly skinny and lightweight. It weighs just 231 grams. That's 30 grams lighter than the Magic VS. It's about the same as Samsung's Galaxy S23 Ultra, and it's actually lighter than some of those friggin' iPhone bricks, which is kind of mental when you consider there's an entire extra phone hidden away inside. This generation of Bendy Magic sports an upgraded titanium hinge and a significantly slimmer design, just 10-ish millimeters when folded up. There's absolutely no gap there whatsoever, and that makes the Honor Magic V2 thinner than any other full-sized foldables out there. And it's hard to explain just how satisfying that unfurling action is as well. It's creamy smooth, there's absolutely no awkwardness, no stiffness. Honestly, I've had some serious sideways glances for doing this over and over in public. People must think it's some kind of weird fetish. The front end of the Honor Magic V2 is coated in a nanocrystal glass, which is apparently highly shatter resistant. And certainly this smartphone's been banged about a fair bit this past fortnight, no issues at all. Of course, you do have a pre-installed screen protector as well, which definitely helps. That is coated in quite a few scratches now. This means the display beneath is absolutely hunky-dory. You can grab the Magic V2 in purple, gold or black. That purple one is particularly lovely, gotta say, quite a subtle shade, absolutely spoogerific. As for water resistance, well, there's no official IP rated for the Honor Magic V2, so certainly don't go dropping it in a pool, in a bath, a sink, anything like that. It'll probably get completely bollocksed. But it seems fairly tolerant of crappy British weather, so that's always a bonus. Now, that exterior display is a 6.43 inch OLED, and I've rather enjoyed using it. You've got a 20:9 aspect ratio, so it's thankfully nowhere near as stupidly skinny as the Galaxy Z Fold 5's external display, although also not quite as pleasingly squat as the Pixel Fold. That standard aspect ratio means that apps run well, typing is a comfortable experience, and you got a 2376 by 1060 pixel resolution, so visuals are perfectly crisp. There's bugger all HDR streaming support in the likes of Netflix. Perhaps that'll change for the full final retail version, but it doesn't really matter because the contrast is still crispy gorgeous. Got inky blacks, natural looking skin tones, and nice poppy vibrant colours as well when kicking back with some anime or whatever. I also found that the Magic V2's external display was super bright, ideal for outdoors use, and it's an LTPO panel as well, maxing out at 120Hz refresh. So overall, as stunning as you would expect from a premium device like the Honor Magic V2, and then unfurl this almighty bugger and you've got yourself a 7.92 inch internal OLED display. That's a perfect size and shape for multitasking, though more on that in a bit, and also for smashing through some manga on the move, and just reading in general. Unlike a lot of these almighty foldables, the crease here is almost completely non-existent, kind of like James Corden's talent. I swear I only ever really noticed that crease whenever I was browsing an app with a perfectly white background, and even then it's only when you're not viewing the screen head on. It's a 2344 by 2156 pixel resolution, so just as sharp as most rival foldables, and it's once again LTPO tech, 120Hz max, with pleasing contrast, wide viewing angles, And like all of these foldables, you do have a shiny protector that covers that screen. And yes, this does get rather grubby when you finger the OnoMagic V2 quite a bit, which isn't noticeable at all most of the time, but when you're outdoors in bright sunshine trying to do stuff, you do notice those grubby prints all over it, which is a little bit minging. However, thankfully, that brightness when you max it out is absolutely eye-searing, so I had no trouble seeing exactly what I was doing on the OnoMagic V2's internal panel, even in a country where the weather doesn't suck. You've also got yourself a pair of beefy stereo speakers, which are all great for chilling with a movie or whatever, and you can't be bothered to plug in some headphones. Thankfully, I've had bugger all issues with the Bluetooth connectivity here, absolutely flawless streaming to headphone speakers. You got full DTS:X Ultra support if you fancy a bit of that. As for the software that's on board, well, as usual, that's good old macOS, as slapped on top of Android 13. And this apparently comes complete with a couple of years of OS and security updates, not quite as tight as what you get with some rivals like Samsung, OnePlus and Google, but at least it's better than nothing, I guess. And I quite like some aspects of macOS, like the control center for quickly activating Do Not Disturb, airplane mode, that kind of thing. And I rather dislike some other bits, like not being able to drag down the notifications bar from wherever I bloody well like. I've banged on enough about macOS in other Honor videos, but as far as the foldable phone experience goes here, well, it's definitely a step up from the original OnoMagic VS. Not quite as good as what you'll get on the likes of a Galaxy Z Fold, however. Now, first of all, skipping between the internal panel and that external screen, nice and simple, no heartaches whatsoever, just basically flip it open, flip it closed, and whatever you've been up to will just pop up on the other screen. And yeah, even if you're using two apps side by side on that internal panel, when you close the Magic V2 up, you'll once again have a bit of split screen action, although obviously a wee bit more cramped. And thankfully apps run really well on this big old internal screen. I didn't see so much random shonkery as I did on the Pixel Fold even. However, when you want to do a bit of split screen action, it's not quite as quick and simple here on the OnoMagic V2 as it was on the likes of the Galaxy Z Fold 5. But you soon get used to it. You can just give this wee bar up here a quick tap and launch split screen mode like so. You'll then be shown a list of all of the compatible split screen apps, so you can choose one to launch on the right hand side. So let's get Chrome on the go. If you want to swap them around at any point, you can just drag and drop like so. And if you want to swap one of them out, just swipe down and again you'll be presented with that menu of apps. As always, you can quickly and easily resize as well to give one of the apps a lion's share of that screen space. Sadly, you can't split screen with more than two apps, it is just the two at a time. However, what you can do is you can open up a third app just as a little pop-up window like so. So you can run three apps on the screen at the same time if you so desire. But it's obviously easier to have these floating windows just shunted off to the side so they're not getting right in the way. However, one big problem with the OnoMagic V2 is that you can't split the screen horizontally, you can only do it vertically, which isn't ideal if you want to watch a bit of YouTube, bit of Sky or whatever on an entire half of that display while catching up with your social medias or your emails or whatever else. So unfortunately it means your video is all cramped up like so. And of course you've got picture-in-picture support for some apps, but again you're relegated to a tiny dinky wee window. And then of course there's Honor's hover mode. Now to activate this, all you got to do is basically bend the phone a bit while you're watching a video on the likes of YouTube. And as you can see, this then automatically fills one half of the screen with your video while sticking some media controls and other bits down below. It's pretty good if you just want to sort of skip a little bit through a video or just quickly pause it like so. However, I did find that the timeline at the bottom is a bit fiddly and unresponsive, and occasionally when swiping I would just accidentally skip to a different app. And also that hinge obviously isn't as stiff as some rivals like the Galaxy Z Fold 5, which means it's very smooth to unfurl, but unfortunately when you are propping it open like so, you can't get quite as many angles on the go. We're generally talking around 100, 110 degrees, and then it'll either immediately or just gradually flop open like so. But hey, it's no biggie, I managed to make it work. Never really found myself too frustrated by it, apart from occasionally when Skyping I had to put the phone quite far away from me so it actually got my head in view and not just my nipples. Not that I'm Skyping nude very often, I just want to point that out. Oh, and Honor have been pleasingly generous when it comes to storage as well. 256 gigs or 512 gigs, no 128 gig bollocks. You can even get a terabyte model if you get like the Ultimate Edition on the go. Now running the show here on the OnoMagic V2 is Qualcomm's mighty Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 as stuffed inside of pretty much every flagship smartphone that was spaffed out in 2023. And that's backed by a pant-wetting amount of RAM, 16 gigs of the stuff, so everyday performance is as smooth as that unfurling action, while Android games run beautifully too. I still maintain that a foldable is a less than ideal way to enjoy mobile titles, especially with online deathmatch and battle royale shenanigans, where your field of view is horribly crushed, unless you stick with the external screen of course. But the Honor Magic V2 sure can maintain a stable frame rate even on higher graphics settings in Genshin Impact, while the ultra-thin vapor chamber cooling system keeps this foldable from getting hot under the collar. Can get a wee bit toasty up towards the top end here, but nothing too troublesome at all, and certainly no throttling of that performance. And also thankfully these past 2 weeks I haven't seen any connectivity issues here on the Honor Magic V2, even when I was buggering off abroad. Meanwhile, stuffed inside of that slender frame is a super skinny silicon carbon battery. It's roughly credit card sized, and yet you still get a 5000 mAh capacity, the same as the previous generation of Honor Magic Foldable. That's because of its extreme power density, which is absolutely mental. So it's perhaps not entirely shocking that the Honor Magic V2 boasts the best battery life of any full-sized foldable that I've reviewed. That includes the likes of Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 5, the Pixel Fold. In a few days while I was testing both of those, they'd be dead before I was all tucked up with Teddy. I'd have to stick a cable in them to charge them up just for 10 or 15 minutes, get them a little bit of extra power just to make it through a full day. But I never had that issue once with the Honor Magic V2, even long ass days, plenty of screen on time with that internal screen. Using them outdoors so the screen brightness was maxed out. Most days I'd end up with at least 20% battery life remaining in the tank. And an even better news, if you did need to do an emergency recharge with the Honor Magic V2, you've got 66 watt wide charging, so you won't be hanging around. Stick a cable in it for 10 minutes, you'll generally have enough to get you through a good few hours. However, unlike some of its more premium priced rivals, there is no wireless charging support here. Now, the camera setup here is a triple threat headlined by a 50 megapixel shooter with optical image stabilization. On auto mode, this proves pleasingly dependable, on par with the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold in most situations. Don't stress about full-on sunshine, as the Honor Magic V2 can handle HDR perfectly well. Your photos will boast poppy blue skies with plenty of detail in those darker sections, kinda similar to what you'd get with an iPhone. And even if you shift indoors, you can still expect realistic colours and not a noticeable amount of grain, although that depth of focus can be quite shallow when you're shooting a nearby subject. However, in the evenings you are best off using that night mode as long as your subject is still, as the auto mode can struggle to keep things crispy. You've also got full-on pro controls on this bad boy, which can certainly help out in low light situations or if you just want a specific kind of shot. And you got all the usual bonus bits, including a respectable portrait mode and an aperture mode if you're shooting close-ups, both of which produce some suitably bonerific bokeh action. The Honor Magic V2's ultra-wide angle shooter is also a 50 meg effort, so you'll still get sharp pics packed with detail, although this doesn't cope as well in less than ideal shooting conditions. And in low light, it can be particularly shonky, so it is best avoided. And last up, you've got yourself a 20 meg telephoto snapper, also with optical image stabilization. And this is fine if you're zooming in around sort of 3 to 5 times. But any further than that and you will get quite fuzzy results, and the Honor Magic V2 can also really struggle to focus on your subject when it's at a distance. Here's hoping a software update can sort that out soon. The Honor Magic V2 also shoots up to 4K resolution video, and at that maxed out resolution you will enjoy quite sharp visuals, although the stabilization isn't as strong as what you would get with the likes of Samsung, Google, etc. Hand tremors are all too obvious, and you won't want to move around and shoot simultaneously. You'll definitely therefore not want to shoot video while on a beer bike experience unless you really enjoy motion sickness. To be fair actually, maybe just don't go on a beer bike or you'll just end up being very wet and stinking of cheap lager. And again, do not zoom in too far when shooting video if you are swapping to that telephoto lens while filming, as you will find that things get rather grainy rather suddenly, but it is handy to pinch in a wee bit when needed. I did experience some audio issues when I was shooting video with the Honor Magic V2, but I think it's either a fault with my review unit or otherwise some software jankery that will be sorted out for the full retail version. And last up, that 16 meg selfie camera is a decent one for those shareable shots. This can cope with strong backlighting, etc, no worries, and it isn't too shonky in the dark. Of course, one of the joys of a foldable phone is the fact that you can simply open it up and use that rear camera to take selfies instead, although certainly on these full-sized foldables it can be slightly awkward and clunky. Unfortunately, the Honor Magic V2 makes it even more of a pain in the arse because while you can get a bit of a preview on that cover screen, you can't actually use it to take photos. There's no shutter button, there's no palm gesture support even. You can use hand gestures to take selfies with the actual selfie cam, but not with the rear cam for some reason, so your best bet is to just turn on the smile shutter. And this works fine as long as you actually feel like smiling, of course. And here's how a selfie with the 50 meg rear cam compares with the 16 meg selfie effort. So that right there, in a nutshell, is my review of the Honor Magic V2, and as I said at the start of this review bit, I really bloody like it. I'd quite happily leave my SIM stuffed inside of there, even though the software experience isn't as good as what you get on Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 5, and the camera tech not quite as good as that Pixel Fold. But what really wins it for me is the absolutely gorgeous, stunning, super skinny design. Of course, the fantastic battery life, which is ultra dependable. Got super smooth performance, slick media chops and everything as well. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what Honor does next. So that's what I reckon of the Honor Magic V2. Be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. And have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone. Love you.